All right. Well, welcome everybody to the financial workshop. Today's topic is financial health improvement. But before we jump into that, I just want to say my name is Arabian Morgan. I am a certified public accountant, also known as a CPA. And I just always like to put people at ease before I begin talking by saying I have nothing to sell you. So at the end of today's presentation, I don't have some sales pitch coming or anything like that, okay? And I don't want to do any one-on-one counseling for you. I don't want to do your taxes or anything like that. But I do want to share with you some things today that I think can help move you along in the area of your personal finances. And so that's what we're going to endeavor to do today. Today's topic, financial health improvement. Financial health improvement. You know, we often hear about our physical health and how can, wanting to figure out how do we improve our physical health, and that's great. It has its place. It's definitely needed. But I think there's also a time where we need to focus on our financial health. And so that's what I want to talk about today. And because of this environment, I always also like to share with you that there is a time for the spiritual and there's also a time for the practical. And so with that in mind, today I want to deal with a lot of practical things that you can implement in your life to improve your life financially speaking, okay? Some spiritual things might show up, and that's good too. We welcome those. But I do want to deal with a number of practical things. Oftentimes when we think of improving something, we first have to know where we are right now with whatever it is we want to improve. So if we wanted to improve our physical health, we have to know how we're doing right now. Perhaps we would go get a checkup from the doctor or something to that effect. And so when it comes to our financial health improvement, we need to first know right where we are today so we'll know what needs to be improved on. And so I don't want to spend a lot of time with trying to figure out where you are right now, but I will briefly mention how to do that. So here's how you figure out where you are right now financially. You need to know what you have. And if you have to make a list of everything you have, you just need to know what do you have in terms of assets or financial assets in your life, whether it be just cash in your bank accounts or savings accounts, retirement accounts. You need to take an inventory of everything you have that's worth something. And I don't mean take an inventory of how much you have in clothing and stuff like that. You couldn't use your clothing to do more than just put clothes on your body. Nobody's going to give you money for your clothes, so to speak. But you need to know what you have right now, okay? So knowing what you have in terms of your assets and particularly cash or investments is great. But you also need to know, who do you currently owe money to, owe anything to? And so you'd make a list of, well, I got 5 credit cards, 2 of them are completely paid off, praise the Lord, but 3 of them have balances on them. So you'd write down those balances. You with me on that? You might have a home. If it has a mortgage still, how much do you owe on your mortgage? That kind of thing. Who do you owe money to? And then you need to know, how much money do you have coming in on a regular basis? Maybe monthly, whether from your job, retirement income, Social Security income, just other investments. You need to know how much money is coming in all the time on a regular basis. That's important to know in terms of where you are right now. And finally, you need to know, where do you spend money on a regular basis? What are your bills? How much do you pay monthly in utilities for your mortgage payment, your rent payment? If you have any medical expenses that you come out of pocket paying, how much are those every month? If you write it all down, you begin to see a picture of where you are now. And that's the goal. I found that people that don't know, they might know how much money comes in every month, but they never know what really happens to their money each month. I mean, they get midway through the month and the money's all gone, and they have no idea where it went. So what I want to encourage you to do is always track your spending. Find out where you're really spending money. And it's not so much the everyday bills or monthly bills, because you kind of have a good knowledge of those. I mean, you know what your rent is going to be. You know what your mortgage payment's going to be. Okay, but how much are you really spending on food? Are you buying things that you know that you're going to be eating during the month? Or do you just buy stuff and really not pay attention to it? And if someone were to go into your pantry or some closet in your house and you got all this food in there that's been there a long time, you know. One of the exercises I encouraged this one couple to do, there's a little family, small family, but they were trying to pay off credit card debt. And so I said, well, after we got an idea of where their money comes from and how much they were spending each month, I said, you got all this food in the house. Why don't you eat all the food in the house before you go grocery shopping again? And I see, eat everything. Go into the pantry, whatever's in there. I said, I want all of it eaten before you go shopping. And they had just collected all these things. I mean, half-eaten boxes of cereal, a lot of Bisquick in there. I'm like, you can make some pancakes, things like that. But I'm just saying, sometimes we gather things and don't realize it. And we've all just been spending money on things. For me personally, early on in life, I just had a habit when I was at work, I would just go to the vending machine all day long. I didn't realize I was spending so much money at a vending machine. And I rarely go to the vending machines nowadays, but when I do pass by, I kind of look at the prices of stuff. I'm like, you're crazy, $1.50 for a bag of chips? And I'm just shocked at what I see. But I remember that was my thing. I would go down to the coffee cart in the morning and buy, I bought a croissant and freshly squeezed orange juice. They didn't have Starbucks back then. It was a coffee cart though. And so I would buy this nice buttery croissant and some freshly squeezed orange juice. That was $5 a day, and I did that all year long. I mean, $5 a day, $25 a week, that's $100 a month. That's $1,200 a year for a croissant and some orange juice. But when I started paying attention to where I was just spending money, I knew that that was not acceptable for what I wanted to accomplish in dealing with my finances. So I cut that out altogether and just started buying orange juice. And the croissant really wasn't much of anything, but I cut that out too. So that's really how to tell where you are right now. But you need to know where you are right now so that you can figure out where you want to go in the future. Okay? That's a biblical principle too. I remember at the very beginning, one of the very first questions God ever asked. First question he ever asked, I believe he said, "Where are you?" He was talking to Adam, wasn't he? He said, "Where are you?" And God knew where Adam was. But God wanted to make sure Adam knew where he was. But I think it's very important to answer that question for ourselves financially. Where am I? Don't look at your neighbors. Don't look at your family and friends. Focus on yourself. Just focus on yourself. But now we want to get into the area of improving in our financial arena or in our financial life. How do we improve our financial health? How do we do that? Well, there are some critical areas that I think you should take a look at and begin to focus on. Not all at one time, just focus on one critical area at a time. But I want to liken this to getting your health checkup, okay? And the doctor says, you need to lose 10 pounds or whatever the weight is. Well, you can't just go and lose 10 pounds in a week. So there is a time factor involved in improving our financial health too. You have to understand, the worse you perceive your situation to be, and that's okay, but the worse you perceive it to be, the more I don't want you to get discouraged by how much time it might take to help improve things. All you want to do is improve. I'm not saying you got to get to an area of perfection. There are things that I have to accomplish every day. There are things I have to accomplish every week. And some of those things I really don't want to do. I really don't want to do. For you all that are still going to work and you know that, okay, these are my responsibilities. You have you know what you need to do on any given day, but there are just some things you'd rather not do. And for me personally, I recognize those things, and those are the first things I have to do during the day. Anything, because I will sit there and just make a list. I want to accomplish these 5 things today. And I'm very honest with which 5 things need to be accomplished. And the ones that I do not want to do, I do first. Because if I do all the easy stuff or the stuff I like to do, then I'm just stuck with stuff I don't want to do once those are done. So I make it a point to deal with some difficult things first, or things I just don't want to do. Not that they're not difficult. Sometimes it's just, I got to call this person. And it's just that conversation I really don't want to have. Well, I try to take care of those things first. And just to give you perspective on how this works in improving our financial health, or whatever you want to do during the day or week or month or year, I recognize this. My daughter just got her braces removed. She had to have braces and this and that. And so, but I was looking at just how that worked. I mean, because I see her teeth are so much more improved after wearing braces. Because when it first started out, I didn't see any. I was like, I don't know what this little wire is going to do. I couldn't see it. But after a certain time period, I saw the market improvement overall. So let me tell you how braces work. And you can apply this to any area of what you need to accomplish. All braces do is just a little bit of pressure in a consistent direction on your teeth. That's how braces work. And so I looked at that and I said, you know what? I'm gonna implement that in my life. So for whatever it is I need to do, especially the things I do not want to do, I take the braces approach and I apply a little bit of pressure consistently in the same direction, just so I begin to see things. And I don't see things happen right away, but let me give you an example. When I wanted to get out of credit card debt, I said, okay, I'm paying the minimum on it. I'm just going to begin paying a little bit more, whether it was $10 or $100 a month, and it was a big bill, So I would just apply $100 more to it each month. Or whenever extra money come in, I would put it on there. But that's just a little bit of pressure on there. And over time, I'm not saying this happened right away, but over time, that bill was gone. And then I didn't get back in there because I knew just how much it took to get out of that. When I'm sitting at home every day, I've got my list in front of me of the things I don't want to do. All I have to do is now focus on one thing. And sometimes it takes less than 5 minutes. I just have to sit down and focus on the one thing. Sometimes it's writing out a letter to someone, sending out an email. But if I sit down and I focus, that's the little bit of pressure I'm putting on it in the consistent direction. And then I look up and it's done. And I say, I don't know what I was worried about doing that for. It's done. So that's how I want to encourage you with that analogy, applying pressure, not a lot, just a little pressure. And over time, that little bit of pressure you place on whatever the task is, you're going to see it accomplished. That's the way you're going to begin to see things improving in your life. If it's losing weight, hey, just cut out one thing that you normally eat. I had to do that too. I got up to 210 pounds, and for me, that's a lot. Okay, for me, that was a lot. So I said, okay, I'm just going to cut out one thing. I'm not going on some crazy diet. I said, I'm just going to cut out one thing. One thing, that's it. I said, I'm going to cut out eating bread. Now, I didn't say the stuff that does the same things as bread, just I'm going to cut out the bread. And after I got used to that, okay, I'm going to cut out one more thing. Like that. You with me? So I take these baby steps, so to speak. Now, here's some areas that I think you might want to focus on, and I'm going to give you some questions to ask yourself, okay? Now, some of these areas are not the world's greatest topics to talk about, but they're in your life and you need to focus on them. Okay. First thing I want you to think about. What happens, well, let me preface this. If you have people in your life that are relying on you financially, if you have people in your life that are relying on you financially, I want you to ask yourself, what happens if you were to die today? What happens to them, those people that are relying on you financially? If you can answer that question and you like the answer, nothing to do there. If you say except for your pets?
No, my cat.
Your cat. Okay, well, you know, Fluffy's going to have to, Fluffy will make their way. Okay, you've trained her. So if you don't like your answer to the question of what will the people relying on me financially do if I'm not here, and the point where you have to say I die is right now, because you have to kill yourself right away. All right, that way you can really get a good idea of what's going to happen. If you don't like the answer to that, you've got some improving to do in that area. Whether that be finding some life insurance to help provide for them, or educating them right away on some things they need to do. I had one particular client a couple weeks ago. She said, I was thinking about if I died, my house, who gets my house and who gets my car? And so I just told her, I was like, well, who's in your life? Because she said, I don't have a will, I don't have any sort of trust or anything like that. I said, well, who's in your life? And she has brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews, no direct kids though. I said, okay, well, I'll just tell you, if you die right now without a will, the state is going to take it and divvy it up among so many people, among your relatives, and they'll all begin to argue and things like that. And so I told her to help herself, if she wants a clear game plan of who gets her stuff, I said, well, here's some easy ways, some not expensive ways to get a will. And I don't know that she needed a living trust, but kind of share with her how to do it. All right, so that's one thing you need to improve on. What happens if I die today? What happens in my financial life? Okay? Another area I want you to look at, and some of you are nearing retirement or you just entered into retirement, you need to ask yourself or make sure before you retire, just make sure, are you going to have what you need in retirement, in your retirement years? And I say this from the perspective of, even if you are about to retire next week, next month, and a lot of people come, hey, I'm retiring in 6 months. That's great and all, but I want to make sure that you know that you have enough to live on, you know? And so I don't necessarily want people running out and spending all their retirement money paying off mortgages and things like that. It's all about how long are you going to be able to live on the money and assets you have. But some of the other conversations I have, because not everybody's planned for retirement coming one day, and so I say I don't have a get-rich-quick thing for you here. In order for you to build up your retirement accounts really fast, I don't have anything that's conducive to that occurring. So I say I want you to begin to think about, what is your retirement years going to look like? Meaning, where are you still going to be working during what we call retirement years? Not, hey, I'm going to be quitting my job when I turn 65 or 62 or 72, and I want to, I'm just encouraging people to think about it realistically. Based on where you are now, how do you improve in that area? If you don't have very many years to retirement, your focus needs to be on what will retirement years look like with you still working. If you have a long way to retirement, then your question is, what do I need to do to have enough money later on in life? And you got a long time horizon to plan for that, setting aside more now. I was with a group of about 80 adults a couple weeks ago, and we were just sitting down. We all had calculators, and I was walking them through a mathematical calculation. And we agreed as a group that, and we were just doing a simple calculation, okay? And this is a young adult group, not, a couple people were pretty old, but young adults pretty much. So we just did a simple calculation. And I said, okay, I'm going to have you set aside so much money every month for 20 years, all right? And I want you to tell me how much you're left over with, how much you'll have at the end of 20 years. And it was a difficult mathematical calculation, but we went through it, and they came up with, for the most part, they came up with $300,000. And so I said, now what do we learn from this? And I think I had them they were setting aside 12. It was about $12,000 a year they were setting aside. So that's $1,000 a month. So they wound up with like $300,000 based on our calculations. And I said, what do you learn from all of this? And they said, one of the older people said, oh, this is a lot of money for me. I'm good. And she said, I'm going to party it up, and when I pass away, I'm good. But she was elderly already. So, but everybody else said, you're basically telling me I need to set aside more than $1,000 a month. And I said, yeah, that's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm telling you. But, like I said, we're all at different stages, and we just want to improve something. So one of the things we can do to improve in this area is be realistic with ourselves and ask ourselves, what will our retirement years look like? What sort of work will I be doing? Doesn't have to be a full-time job, it could be part-time. Doesn't have to be your own business. You could still be working for the same company you've worked for a long time. One of the challenges is I see a lot of retirees, they've retired and they make some, I'm going to just put it out there, foolish investments, and then they want to, they find themselves in an area where they got to go back to work. Some people say, I wish I would have never left, because now I'm going to work for a company that I don't know anything about. I have no seniority here. I probably should have just stayed on my old job, no matter how much I thought I didn't like it. At least the pay was good, and I knew what I was doing. So the question is, what is your retirement years going to look like? If you are being approached by anyone saying or asking you about how much money do you have in your retirement accounts, your 401ks, your IRAs, and your investment accounts, if anyone's approaching you, asking you those questions, they want to take advantage of something from you. They really do. So you need to be careful with who you share your information with. If the person approaching you is a financial advisor and they work for an insurance company, they probably want to sell you an annuity, or they want to get you into other types of investments that really, from their perspective, no matter what business you do with them, that's how they get paid. They're not really so much focused on you, even though they can be, some can, but I'm saying for the most part, you got to watch it. Okay, I want you to really be careful with the people that are approaching you. All right? And I know this just from watching. I just watch. So many people have been taken advantage of, particularly elderly people or people about to retire. So I want you to always have your guard up. You can always say, you have to go talk to my CPA. And then to say, you can find him on Sundays here at this church, and just refer them to me. Don't have him call. Just say he'll be at the church on Sunday. You have to talk to my CPA. You really do. Another little, anyway. So that's retirement. What are you doing financially just in your daily life now? What specifically do you want to do to improve something in your life that requires your finances? Is it something around the house that you've wanted to improve or upgrade or fix? And hey, money is a tool. You got some money sitting there, you want to go use it, okay? This is part of financial health improvement. Where are you going to spend your money next? I had a conversation this week from a person who they just made they're about to close escrow on a house, and he asked me, what financial advice can you give me because I'm buying this house? And he did everything I could think of, just around him. He knows that he can afford the mortgage, he can afford the property taxes and insurance. He's got a great little savings account, a nest egg. He even found out if the worst case scenario happened, he would come up short $500 a month in paying all his bills, in a worst case scenario, because he worked like 3 jobs. He says, if I only have one of these jobs and the other 2 fall away, the worst thing that's going to happen is I'll come up short $500 a month. He had a nice little savings account, nest egg, right? So I said, hey, listen, if your worst case scenario means you come up $500 short, I said, Just go work at UPS at night and throw some boxes around. You can make $500 doing that. Okay, so I wasn't worried about him, but I said, now here's what you need to pay attention to. Young guy, younger than me. He's been married twice as long as me, though. Started off really young. Got some kids. I said, you're buying your first home, and you got a nice nest egg, this emergency fund, this savings account just sitting there. I said, you and your wife need to have a real conversation about how you're not going to try to improve this house in one sitting, in 1 week. Once you close escrow, you are not to take your savings account and furnish the whole place and fix all this. And, you know, I had another client, I was just talking to him last week, and on the weekend he said, man, I just bought this house and I saw my sister's bathroom. I want my bathroom to be as beautiful as her bathroom. And I said, man, just get used to making the mortgage payment. So with my young client couple, I said, all I want you to do, just make a list. You and your wife, just make a list of all your desires for this new home to be for you. What do you want to fix, repair, change? Just make a list of it before you spend any money. And then I want you to prioritize that list. Just put things in order. What's the most important to you? Don't worry about the dollar amounts. Just what's the most important? What's the next most important? Just make a list. And I said, you guys have the rest of your lives to manage your way through this list. But I said, you do not want to spend your entire savings account on making this your dream home overnight. I said, just knock one thing out. And that's what my wife and I did. You know, that's what we did. So I was telling him just from my own personal experience. But I learned from that, I learned to do that from talking to people that actually shared with me that they went out, they bought their house, and then they ran up all these credit card bills making their dream house their dream house. And, you know, we'd go over for dinner parties and things like that, and nothing is paid for. Nothing was paid for. Everything was on credit cards. Looked beautiful. So I said, okay, that's why it was easy for me not to make that mistake, because people took the time to share with me their reality about what they had done and how they did not like it after the fact. But what was done was done. When we talk about financial health improvement, a lot of times we begin to analyze our financial situation when something drastic occurs, like maybe a loved one, maybe you've just inherited a lot of money. That causes us to focus on things. Maybe something bad has occurred, I mean the death of a loved one, and now you're in a different financial situation, so now you're reassessing everything. And it's these dramatic events that cause us to focus on our financial health. But I think, just as one thing you could do, don't wait for those moments in life. Just develop a routine. Maybe it's once a month when you pay bills. Maybe it's every other month when you pay bills. But just some sort of routine that gets you to focus on, where's your money coming from? What are you spending money on? What do I have? Who do I owe money to? But you need to just focus on, just take an hour to focus on your finances. Make it a routine so that when something does pop up, you automatically know how to fix something or how to solve this latest issue. For example, because my wife and I focus on, as a routine, our family finances, because we do that, we've been able to, we had a couple things pop up. And I've mentioned this before. One, somebody decided to sue us last year. And I was like, okay, well, you know what? We've got this. We'll just use this savings over here for a lawyer let the lawyer do their thing, and we won't stress about it. Okay? But it wasn't anything that we had to think long and hard about and figure out and calculate, because we kind of knew where things were. Take you back 10 years. And just based on having a routine, okay, knowing what all my current finances are, my father-in-law passed away. Just gone. Wasn't expecting that. And I didn't know too much about my father-in-law doing his finances or anything. I didn't know anything. But we got a letter saying, that he had a reverse mortgage on the house. They're about to take away the house. So they said, you've got, I think what they say, you've got 90 days. No, this was back then. And then when these first got started, it wasn't 90. It was 60 days. You got 60 days to pay off this mortgage or we get the house. And I said, okay. Now, my mother-in-law is still there, right? So her name wasn't on that loan. Yeah, there's some reverse mortgage things y'all need to know before you ever do them. But so anyway, but because our finances, we knew where we were financially, I asked my wife, I said, one, do you want your mother to move in with us? Because I had a small, what you would call a mother-in-law space. So I said, do you want your mother to move in with us? She said, no, she's very comfortable where she's at. I said, okay, all right. So I said, okay, I don't have, I think it was $90,000 to pay off that mortgage. So I said, we could refinance it and make monthly payments. So anyway, the bottom line is, I knew where our finances were. I said, well, listen, we can borrow the $90,000 today, pay that off, and then focus on paying off this $90,000 later, okay, with monthly payments. And I said, we can afford to do that. But that whole conversation was inside of 30 minutes because we knew where things were financially, okay? So we don't wait for dramatic events and dwell on them for a week and having to figure out, well, what are we going to do? And, and sometimes, and practically speaking, it's easy to say, let's pray about it. Okay, that's great. Practically speaking, it's nice to know what you can do in the natural. Because if you can do it in the natural, there's certain things you don't have to pray about. My car broke down. Well, do I know a good mechanic? If I already have a good mechanic, if I know I got some money in the bank to have it repaired, I'm going to have it repaired. I don't need to pray about that. Sometimes we do have to ask for advice, though, when things come up. Young guy here at the church, he came out and said, can you talk to me for a minute? I said, yeah, what about? He's like, my car is worth $1,200. If I sold it today, according to Kelley Blue Book, I can get $1,200 for it. But he said, I need to replace all 4 tires, and I need a catalytic converter. That's going to cost me $1,200. Should I just buy a new car? So I said to him, okay, your new tire, where'd you go that gave you this information? And he said, basically I went to a dealership. I said, okay, dealership. All right, great. It wasn't the dealership itself. It was but it might as well have been a dealership. Those are like salons. The more beautiful your car repair shop is, the more expensive it is. All right? I call them salons. So he went to this salon of a car mechanic. And I said, well, their whole thing, they make a lot of money selling tires. So they're going to tell you need new tires. And, he needed shocks and struts too. So I said, listen, you go to Koreatown, get yourself some Kumho tires. And I said, that's going to cost you $100 total, $25 a tire. I said, the shocks and struts and stuff, that's just about the comfort of your ride. And I said, you only drive to work and back every day, right? And he said, yeah, I don't go anywhere or do anything special. I said, so you're not really concerned about the tire issue. I said, your catalytic converter. I said, well, you can't pass a smog check if that's not repaired. I said, when was the last time you had a smog check? He's like, I just had it this year. I said, good, you got 2 years before you're going to need another one. So I told him, I said, listen, I want you just to start planning. What kind of car do you want? And I said, your car needs to be 3 years old when you buy it, minimum. We just started talking through it. We wanted to improve his financial health. And I didn't want him to run out because he got a brand new job, paying him a lot of money. And I encouraged him, just start saving up money, that kind of thing, for a rainy day. And I didn't want him to buy this brand new car. Me personally, I only think brand new cars are for millionaires because they're not worth the brand new car price once you drive off. So I told him, I said, buy a car, 3 years old. But I said, you got 1 year to start just setting aside money for it. You got 1 year to start thinking about what kind of used car do you want. I said, just go start looking and not buying, but seeing what's out there, seeing what you want. And this guy is easy, all right? He didn't want anything extravagant. So I said, listen, let's look at your finances. And it turns out the car he wants really is only going to cost him like $12,000. He'll probably put down $3,000, which means he's got $9,000 left over to, And I said, the worst case scenario, if you absolutely need another car, I said, yeah, you can go ahead in your circumstances, you can finance it through a credit union. I said, but I want you to pay on that $1,000 a month. I don't care what your car payment is. You pay on it $1,000 a month. In 10 months, this car is going to be paid for. That's what I encouraged him to do with his situation. Another guy, his car broke down, and he really encouraged me by what he's doing. He only went to work and back, and he's a young guy, not married. So he takes the bus to work sometimes. He says, sometimes I'll splurge and take an Uber to work. I said, okay, all right. And so I said, what do you do on weekends? I said, I know you like to go out on dates and stuff. He was like, man, every weekend the car rental shops have specials. He said, so if I've got a date and I plan on driving, I just go rent a car. He's been doing that for a few years now. I can only hope he's just setting aside money for whatever car he really wants. I hope he is. But this is all from people that have really taken stock of what they want to accomplish and begin to move in a particular direction to accomplish whatever it is that helps them improve in life. Another area that I want you to think about, we go back to the morbid kind of stuff, but what happens to you when you die? What happens to you now? Not the people left. What do you want the people left to do when you die? You should have a conversation with them. I guess let's back up before you actually die. You need to have someone who will give you some finance, who you're willing to have help make, let me say it this way. You want someone to help you with medical decisions about you. All right, so you need what's called a health care directive. And these things are pretty easy and cheap and inexpensive to put together. If you're used to going online, doing stuff on the internet, you can use a company like LegalZoom.com. I don't endorse any particular product or whatever, but I have used that recently to just do a few things legally for people, with people. And if you really are comfortable, maybe you got some family members that are, your kids are grown up and they can work with you. If you want to do wills and trusts and these healthcare directives and giving your power of attorney to your children and stuff like that, there is Quicken Will Maker. It's a $60 online. You download this software, create your own will and trust and healthcare directives and powers of attorney. Quicken Will Maker. They update it every year, but if you got an old copy, it works too. But what happens when you die, though? I mean, you really need, here's the tough part. You got to talk to people and say, listen, when I die, here's what you need to know about me. I have money in this bank account, that's to bury me with. Or the money that I have is all yours, family. Just go ahead and cremate me. Cheapest way possible. Just have the conversation. Tell people what you want to have happen. Okay? They need to know. They need to know. Because sometimes what you want to have happen is unrealistic, and they know it is. So they'll smile and say, yes, 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 yes. And, you know, I had a relative tell me, they said, okay, I want to be buried next to my father in Southeast Texas. And I said, okay, you know, that's fine. Take care of that for you. And so I said, well, what money do I have to do all this with? Because we're all in Southern California, you know. And I said, it's not cheap to fly a body across the country there. And I said, I'm certainly not driving with you in the back, in the trunk or anything. So anyway, I said, yes, 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 yes. And at the risk of them hearing this, I'll just say what I said. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, step one, cremate them. Step two, take a vacation to Texas. But if you don't leave me enough money to do it precisely how you have envisioned, I get very creative, you know. So you want to have a conversation with people. I never forget my uncle having a conversation with me. He said, listen, when I die, I want all my life insurance money to go to my daughter, make sure she gets it. Don't spend a lot of money on me doing anything around here. Just, you know, cremate me, whatever. But I want my daughter to have all that money. And sure enough, he passed away, His daughter was about, she was about 18, you know. And that insurance money, because we didn't spend it all on this elaborate memorial service and casket and stuff, that really went a long way in her life to get her moving forward in life. So I just want to encourage you in that, whatever it is you desire, because different people have different things they want to do. Okay? I even had a conversation with my mother. In fact, I had a conversation with my mother every couple years. I'm like, now remind me again, what is it you want to do? And it changes a little every year that we have it, you know? I think now, I don't want anybody to know where I'm buried. Okay. I said, all right, I can do that. Because she said, I don't want people wasting their time coming to visit me and putting flowers and stuff out. I said, okay, I can handle that. I said, do you want me to know where I'm going to bury you? No, just, I don't want to know either. Okay, I got you. I got you. Hey, but it was her telling me. It was her telling me. I didn't care.
That sounds selfish. You know, what about the kids and the relatives and all that?
It's my mother. Hey, it's my mother. I'm not the only child. No. She does. Me and my brothers and sisters can know, but you know, her brothers and other extended family. You know, every holiday comes up, I have older relatives where I must drive them to the cemetery so we can put flowers on people's graves. And I'm just saying that's what they enjoy doing. I just like spending time with them, and I only got to do it once a year or twice a year for some people because they have multiple holidays. But you know, whatever. I've done a lot of talking. What questions do you all have for me? Anybody have a question? Yes. Ask your question. I'm going to repeat it.
How much money should you put down when you're buying a house?
How much money should you put down when you're buying a house? You need to put down enough money so that the monthly mortgage payment for you is affordable. Okay? That's how much you need to put down so that your monthly mortgage payment is affordable for you. Now, how much should your monthly mortgage payment be as a percentage of your overall income? That really is an individual thing. You have to look at all your bills and finances, okay? So I don't have a solid percentage for you, but I would say it's got to be big enough so that your monthly mortgage, you can afford it comfortably, along with property taxes, insurance, utilities, incidentals, accidentals in case you have kids. But that's my answer for you on that. And guess what? It does require you to save a lot of money, okay? You're going to find people that say you could buy a house for as little as 3% down or nothing down. Okay, that's fine. But what's the monthly mortgage payment going to be? That's what I want you to focus on, okay? Yes, sir.
If you want to put your children into your property, is it a good idea or not a good idea?
If you want to sell your property to your children, is that a good idea?
You want to put their name.
Oh, you want to put their names on the property. It all depends on what you're trying to accomplish by putting your kids' names on your property. So you have to ask yourself why, okay? If it's just your single-family home, you don't necessarily want their name on the property if it's increasing in value, because it will. There's some benefits to dying and leaving kids something without their name being on it initially. It'll help them because then they can sell it and not have to pay any tax on it. So there are some things there to really consider. But if it's investment properties and things like that, you just have to ask yourself, what am I trying to accomplish? And is this the best way to accomplish it? If you want to make sure they get it when you die, put it in your will or in a living trust to them, they'll definitely have it, okay? So unless you got another type of reason you'd want to do it, I can't really think of, I could always think of other things to make sure they get the house, okay? Yes, ma'am.
Is the Federal Trade Commission one you need to see about a new servicer who you suspect is doing something a little shady, for instance, adding a prepayment penalty where there was none before?
Is the Federal Trade Commission who you need to see if you suspect your new mortgage servicer has done something kind of shady or tricky with prepayment penalties? So in your in your mortgage documents that you have, if there is no prepayment penalty in it, and this new servicer of the loan is saying there's going to be a prepayment penalty, just know you're going to be okay, All right, all you have to do is stick to the original agreement. But who do you see about that if they're imposing it on you? It's not the Federal Trade Commission. It is the Office of, I want to say, Consumer Finance. It's that's not the exact name of it. But, let's see. No, I will look up the exact name after today's workshop and give it to you before you go, if you'll just stick around, because there is an actual organization. You call them, they call that mortgage company or servicer, and they kind of knock it out pretty quick for you. Yeah. Yes?
Back to this gentleman's question. My question to you is, what if you put your child or your children's name on your property as joint tenants? Wouldn't that automatically transfer to them in your passing?
Yes.
Without any challenges?
So if you were to put, I'm going to synopsize the question. If you do put your names, the names of your children on your property as joint tenants with right of survivorship, would it automatically pass to them? And the answer is yes. However, I believe you're going to lose out on a lot of tax benefits for them if you do that. There are some tax benefits. If the property is appreciated in value, they would lose out on those tax benefits, but they would get the property right away. With no questions asked, they would. Now, if there's a mortgage on the property, that may not be so easy to do as put their name on there right away, because most of the time, financial institutions want to be paid off before you change who's on title. But sometimes they don't care. But you do lose tax benefits by putting them on as joint tenants. But you do, administratively, it speeds up the process. I would recommend putting it in a living trust, and it's just as seamless. Just as seamless.
I have a question.
Talk to me.
If you put their name on the property and you have an outstanding mortgage, when they go to buy the house, won't they incur the debt of your property as well when it comes to debt to income ratio?
If there's a debt to income, so if you put the kids' names on your property and your property has a mortgage on it, the question is, when they go to buy their own house, will that mortgage on the current property affect their debt to income ratio? The answer from off the top of my head is based on, is their name on that mortgage that's on your property that you just added their name to? If their name is not on the mortgage, from a financial institution's perspective, they won't see it. But if they're responsible for paying that mortgage, they need to find out, can they really afford to pay one mortgage and then a new mortgage at the same time? But if their name is not on the mortgage, it technically doesn't affect their debt to income ratio.
So they could be on the property and not on the mortgage?
As long as the bank does not tell you the whole mortgage is due once you put them on the title. Yeah. And that occurs a lot. I found that banks don't care as long as the bill gets paid. That is what I found just over the years dealing with real estate. I have found that to be true. But it is their right to always say, hey, the title has changed, we're entitled to get paid off right away. At any time, they can say that. So I always keep that in front of people. Okay? Yeah. What if you have 4 years to work,
And you rent,
no pension, no retirement,
your rent keeps going up,
and your rent keeps going up,
and you're trying to decide whether to buy or...
and you're thinking about buying a house?
So my question is it better to buy a house or buy a condo?
Is it better to buy a house or buy a condo? Okay, 4 years to retirement. You have nothing saved. You cannot buy a house. You cannot buy a condo. You cannot. The question really to ask is, what's making you focus on this 4 years to retirement? I want you to look at what will your retirement years look like. Can you really just stop working? You said your rent keeps going up, and I understand you'd like to limit that exposure for it to keep continuing to go up. You have to have a game plan of what you want to do. If you say, I do not want to keep working, I just want to live on Social Security, you may not be able to live where you're currently living. You may need to live somewhere because you could move to where the standard of living is lower or less expensive, and your Social Security remains the same. And I'm assuming that's all you would have left is Social Security based on your scenario. So I would tell you, if you have nothing saved, you cannot buy anything. And to me, personally, from what I've seen, buying a condo is not a good idea if you plan on having the value go up and sell it one day. Condos are not the best situations. Okay. All right.
What do you think about rent-to-owns?
What do I think about rent-to-owns? So you live in a place, you're the renter, and they tell you you're going to rent to own this thing, okay? And not rent to own like a TV, living place. Okay. So if you are the renter, the rent to own thing in your mind, one day you're going to be able to buy this place, okay? In the owner's mind, the owner is going to think, okay, this person thinks one day they're going to be able to buy this place, but I know that's never going to happen. That is what they're thinking. Now, here's what I would encourage you to do, okay? Now, I'm going to talk out of two sides of this issue, because sometimes I hear it from a tenant, sometimes I hear it from the landlord. For the landlord, I tell the landlord, you can get a down payment up front, but not include extra rent in their monthly payment to go towards buying your house later. Okay, that's a no-go for the landlord. Just get them to say, okay, I'll give you $2,000 now. Our agreement will be, in 10 years, I'll be able to buy this house at this fixed amount of dollars. Okay, that's it. But for you, I would just tell you as the tenant that this rarely will work out in your favor. You are going to be so trained on just renting that you will never set aside additional money to ever buy that place. And even if you do set aside money to eventually buy that place, you're going to find something else. You will find something else. I have never seen it accomplished. I have never seen it accomplished. I would love to talk to anyone who did it. I've always heard it talked about. I've seen books written about it. I've never seen one to do it. But there's some gotchas for the landlord if they don't set it up correctly. There's gotchas for the tenant if they don't set it up correctly. But I've never seen anyone finish it. Not to say it can't be done. I'm just saying it's rare that it ever is. Because most of the time, after so much time passes, you find something else you like. And if you're in a position to buy something, you go buy the other thing, which is nothing wrong with that, but it occurs. Yes, ma'am.
I kind of have, if I could, a suggestion for the lady who's thinking of retiring in 4 years.
So I'm going to ask you, because you have a suggestion to answer someone else's question, if you would do it after the session, because I don't want that to be attributed to me having said it, and I don't want to disagree with you. Okay.
I have a question. I have a mother, she lives in Texas, 91 years old, and she has a house free and clear, and 4 of us are, all have houses and pretty successful. The one brother that lives with her, without going into his story, but he's one of these people, which we all may know somebody like that. And she's thinking of leaving the house to him. And we know that he'll probably lose it. I mean, there's no loan on it, so.
So your question is, how do you convince a relative not to leave their property to someone who you don't think is going to take care of it? Is that your question?
Right.
Okay. I mean, just to
But she
make it
thinks
general.
that everybody else has a house, so
Yeah.
why not him, and however it
Okay.
works out if we-
So here's my answer to that, okay?
Yeah.
The person who owns the property can do whatever they want with it. And when you're dealing with relatives in a family situation, a lot of things go through that owner's mind. They look at their other kids and say, my other kids are very successful, they have houses, things like that, so I don't need to leave it to them, but I do have this one kid over here, he doesn't have anything, I'm going to leave it all to this kid, and that might make the other relatives feel some kind of way. I'll give you that. But the person who owns it right now gets to make all the calls. They get to set it up however they want. As long as they are in their right mind and no one is manipulating them, I don't know that you can do too much about it other than having a conversation with them. Now, here's the issue. There's something called elder abuse. If you suspect elder abuse, then there's some legal steps you need to take. But in your scenario that you presented me, you presented me with this relative who doesn't have any home of their own. They are living with this person. They are their relative. If you want some of that property that this loved one is going to leave to that person, your conversation needs to be with the loved one who owns the property. And it's a difficult conversation.
The problem is the house is severely needed stuff happening.
Okay, so listen to me.
And the neighbors around, trust me, they're sleeping like sharks.
Okay,
To
listen to
call the
me.
city
Listen to
and
me.
condemn this house and take it.
This is where, because the house is in such disarray, and you are concerned about other people taking the house or getting the house being taken away or things like that, you can help your relative with that, your elderly relative with that. But just make sure when you're going in, your heart's in the right position, that you know what you're trying to accomplish, and that's what you're trying to accomplish, whatever that is. But if you see a problem that's creeping up and you want to stop it, just make sure your heart's in the right position, and you can go help take care of that.
The story goes on because
I know it's always going to go
my
on.
brother, he won't.
But in your scenario, you said that you are not going to get it anyway, so I'm going to tell you,
He won't
don't
let
worry about it.
anybody on the property.
Don't worry about it. That is a whole scenario for you. You're going to have to, if you really want to deal with it, you're going to have to take necessary steps, a little pressure in the same direction to take care of it. And the older your family gets, the more ornery they get. And it's nothing new. You hear them over here? They've seen it. Yes, sir.
Let's talk about trust again.
Let's talk about trust.
There are several types of trust, to my understanding. Some you can buy through the internet. There are some trust companies that do for you. What do you suggest?
Okay, if you need a living trust, I mean, there are so many types of trusts. In this class, I'm just going to focus on a living trust.
Okay.
All right, meaning you put your assets in the name of a trust, you maintain complete control over them. There are cheap ways to do it. There are more expensive ways to do it. There's always a right way to do it, okay? Sometimes the right way overlaps, but here you go. The absolute cheapest way to do it is do it yourself, meaning you get, for less than $100, Quicken Willmaker. It's an online program. You can download it on your computer, or they might let you do it online altogether. Quicken Willmaker, and you would walk through it step by step to create what we call a living trust. Then you'd have to take the steps, which are not very many, to transfer the assets into that trust, and you're done. So that is the cheapest way I can think of. All right? Now, a better way, it's more expensive, less work on you, you find an estate planning lawyer. E-S-T-A-T-E, estate planning lawyer. This person creates living trusts all day long. That's all they do. They will be able to do it. They'll charge you anywhere from $2,000 on the cheapest side to $10,000, depending on how much complexity you want to have. And when I say complexity, meaning I want to leave it to this relative, to 3 of my 4 kids, except if one kid gets a tattoo, they get nothing. So the more you add into it, the more they're going to charge you. But on average, I've seen them going for about $3,500, but that's including a will, living trust, healthcare power of attorney, also known as a healthcare directive, durable powers of attorney over finances. So they kind of give you a complete package. That is the way I recommend for people that have some money to spend to do it. Now, I haven't said if you need to do it or not, but that's what I recommend to people if you have the money. If you don't have the money, I say you do it yourself online, but you cannot have any complexity with it. In my personal one, did it online. And all it said was, I'm the trustee, my wife is the trustee, I transferred some assets into it. I said, when I die, leave everything to my wife. If my wife's not living, leave everything to my daughter. Period. Nothing special about it. If I want to do anything extra special, meaning if I had a child who had a learning disability or needed some extra special attention and stuff, that requires some amount of expertise in setting up, and that's when I definitely would go to an estate planning lawyer.
So you would do your own will, your own trust?
Yeah, Quicken Willmaker, less than $100.
Spell that.
Quicken,
Is it Quicken or just Quick in the end?
Quicken, Quicken, will maker. And I think they might call it Quicken Will Maker Plus. But it allows you to do it yourself. But you got to have access to a computer, and maybe you have some kids that are older and can help you with it. But you walk through it just step by step by step. The important thing, once it's created, put the assets into it. You have to retitle the name of your house, the name of your bank accounts. You have to retitle them into the name of the trust. No, it's not. But that's the one step people don't do. That's the one thing they don't do.
Can I tell you as a banker?
Oh, you're a banker?
Yeah, I'm telling you, that screws up so much stuff.
Yeah.
Because when the people come and they think that it's been done, and it holds up the money, like for the funerals, if you have a business or you're paying off stuff, and the
Yeah.
bank freezes it. As soon as we get the notification, we have to freeze the assets unless there's another owner on the account.
So take it from a banker. That sounds like the scenario that I always hear about.
Freeze that, as soon as we're notified that somebody is deceased.
They freeze the accounts when people die.
Especially if Social Security was going in, because they're gonna pull that money back out.
Yeah.
So it's been my experience as a banker that it's really cheaper to pay somebody who knows what they're doing than to.
Especially if you have any kind of assets to do it. Yeah. I would not go into debt over it.
Nightmare for the family.
Yeah. If you got a bunch of credit card debt, I wouldn't spend $3,000 on putting this together unless you have other assets that you're really thinking about. But it.
So what I just heard you say now, if you have a trust and somebody, and I pass away, it won't go to probate court, it just.
Well, she didn't say that, but if your trust is, if you have a living trust, and your assets are in the living trust, meaning the title of the asset is not in your name, but it's in the living trust name, it will avoid, and this is what she didn't say, it will avoid probate in California, okay? Now, the big thing to think about is, do you want it to avoid probate also? So, no, I'm just saying this is a side notion, okay? I enjoy having a living trust. I think they're very nice to have to avoid probate. But if you got some angry or ornery kids, siblings, they're always arguing and stuff, if there's any dispute on who owns it, sometimes you want probate to settle it. But now, if you just got a house, some investment accounts, maybe some bank accounts, living trust is the easy way to go. Okay, it'll avoid probate. Sometimes though, probate's nice to have around, just to help settle arguments.
There's an app also for it.
Okay, everybody said there's an app for it. Absolutely, yes.
So can any of the kids dissolve this trust? How is this trust dissolvable?
How is the trust dissolvable? Only the trustee, whoever the trustee is, which initially can be the owner of all the property that put all the stuff in there. So there's three groups or three parties to a trust. There's the grantor. That's the person who owns everything, that sets up the trust and puts the stuff in the trust. That's the grantor. They can always change their mind and take it out, dissolve it, whatever they want. If it's a revocable living trust, the grantor can change their mind at any time. They can rewrite the trust at any time if it is a revocable living trust. And that's what most of them are. There are things called irrevocable living trusts, meaning once it's set up and things are in it, you can't change it at all. But for the most part, what we have in our normal lives, revocable living trust, the grantor can change it all they want, whenever they want. The other party to the trust is the trustee. The trustee can also be the grantor, or the person who put all the assets in the trust initially. The trustee simply follows all the rules that were set out in the trust. The third party to a trust, my favorite position to be in, is the beneficiary of the trust. The beneficiary can be the trustee, doesn't have to be the trustee though, it could be whoever. But the trustee must do everything and give everything to the beneficiaries according to the rules that were set up in the trust. So just know, if you start the trust, you can change your mind at any time. You can change your mind at any time. I have I've seen trusts where, you know, the grantor, the person sets up the trust, they put all the assets into the trust, they name themselves as trustee, and they say, if I become ill in any way, this other person takes over as the successor trustee or the backup trustee. And then the backup trustee dies. Now you got to figure out who's the new backup trustee. And sometimes that means you got to rewrite a portion of that trust, like add an addendum to it. And sometimes adding an addendum means it might just be easier to recreate the whole thing over again. Right. So I've seen that happen too. But when you set up your own trust, you can change your mind up until the point you die or become incapacitated, meaning you can't think for yourself anymore. And usually it takes a few doctors and some nosy children to help with that part. Okay, you got some older parents, dementia, and the house worth a lot of money, and you're the beneficiary. Who's the trustee of the trust? Is there a trust? Okay, if they say there's a living trust, the easy way for you to find out, go to the county courthouse, look up the property taxes, and find out whose name is on the property. If the living trust is on the property, there is a living trust. If it's just their names as individuals, there is no living trust that property is in. I said the county courthouse. You go to the assessor's office, whatever the property tax office is for your area, whatever county you're in. So there's one downtown, there's one in, for Los Angeles County, is one downtown, one in Long Beach, one in Fox Hills area, right where the Fox Hills Mall, or whatever they call it now, is. Okay. So, yeah, but that's the big thing. If you want to find out if the property is in the name of the trust, just go look it up, the property tax records, see what name is listed on the property tax records.
And they did a power of attorney for finances, and my name's on that.
Yeah, and if you got powers of attorney over your family for finances, great. You can do anything as long as they're alive. Yeah, as long as they're alive. Yeah, I have power of attorney over a couple people, and you guys will like this. One of my friends, he was getting very sick, so I drafted up a power of attorney for him. He wanted me to have his power of attorney because his kids were on the East Coast and I was here. So he said, I want you to be able to pay my bills and stuff. Okay, so I got the power of attorney, drafted it up and everything. And the day he died, his kids called me and say, can you go get some money out of his bank account? Nope. They said, why not? You have the power of attorney. I said, my power of attorney is only as good as he's alive. I said, once he dies, that's it. That's it. And so I called the bank and I said, hey, this person died. And I said, here are his next of kin, his children. I said, here's their names, contact information. And then they wanted to share all this stuff with me. I said, hey, I'm nobody special anymore. I said, I was just his friend. I said, there's nothing I can do now. And they knew that, but they wanted to share stuff. I said, you need to call them, contact them. I'm out of the picture altogether. Because I already know family starts acting ugly when people die. And I know he had Social Security. I said, make sure that last Social Security check comes in. You guys got to repay that. And just, it's funny how people act when loved ones pass away. That's why you set it up before you die. All right, class, you set it up before you die. Keep your family from arguing with each other unless you just want to have fun after you die. So here's what I'm going to do, just because for time. I'm actually going to call this meeting to a close, and then I'll stick around and answer questions for you guys, okay? All right. But I really appreciate you coming. We'll have one more financial workshop in October, I believe, and that'll complete it for the year. So just pay attention for announcements on that. Otherwise, if you want any of that food in the back, please go help yourself. There's no reason for me to take that with me, and it shouldn't just sit here. So please